Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 8 at Saratoga on Sunday. It's the Grade 2 Bowling Green. $250,000 is the purse. We're going 1 3/8 miles, 3 turns over the inner turf course at Saratoga. Let's take a look at this field. And of course, you can play this race and the nice card at Saratoga with your DRF Bets account, which includes free Formulator past performances. And it's nice to see old Arklow back for an 8-year-old campaign. He's earned $2.9 million in his career. This is going to be his first start since October, however, for Brad Cox.
Yeah, I was a little surprised actually to see his name. I was just wondering a few weeks ago where Arklow was. I thought maybe they had retired him, which they certainly could have done. He's had a great career, Dan. He comes off the layoff here. Worth pointing out that he's been very good off of layoffs in the past. We'll see if he still is as an 8-year-old. He is the morning line favorite, though.
I didn't see a ton of pace in this race. Not surprising in a short field of marathoners on the turf. Cross-border Timeform US believes can make the lead, and I can understand that. He's stretching up off of several shorter distance races, and of course he won this race last year, but he did it from off the pace. I think Limparator's best chance is if Manny Franco sends him like Eric Cancel did when they wired the Fort Marcy 2-back.
Yeah, they really changed it up in the Fort Marcy over a bog of a turf course, but they changed it up there. It worked out well for them. They reverted to the closing tactics last time in the Manhattan and took him back. He actually ran okay in that race without a great trip. I'm with you. I feel like it might be smart for them to go forward this time from the rail.
Let's talk about Limparator. It's kind of been a start and stop career for him. It looked like he would show some promise when he was third in the Bernard Baruch in 2021, and then he would run a bad race, and then he would run a good race, and then he would run a couple of bad races. The Fort Marcy was a situation where he benefited from the give in the ground and the fact that he got an easy lead. But in the Manhattan, I think he conceded the lead for one reason. Tribhuvan was in the race. They wanted him to control it. It was Tribhuvan's race. Limparator sat in mid-pack, and I was a little bit surprised that even though he was in some traffic, he was running on at the end of that race and never really got fully clear.
I agree with all that stuff. I wasn't surprised that they took him back, but the way that the race shaped up, and every once in a while, I guess that'll happen with Tribhuvan just going to the front and everybody else taking a hold. That race was kind of a joke. This horse just never really got clear to run in that race, and it actually felt like he had some horse in there too, Dan. He couldn't factor at the end, but he never had a chance. I don't know what to make of him. I think his last 2 races are both good. But the Fort Marcy, it's just really hard for me to give him a bunch of credit for winning that race. He went to the front. He obviously handled that turf course, and almost nobody else did. I mean, there were good horses in there that got beat 40, 50 lengths.
And got something like 6 Beyer speed figures. So take that race with several grains of salt. Arklow is just a cool horse that you have to root for, and you give him a nice round of applause when he shows up in the paddock. His first stakes victory came in 2017, and he was still kicking around in good form last year, winning the Louisville Grade 3 and running second in the Turf Cup at Kentucky Downs. The layoff, you mentioned it. He's run well off layoffs in the past. The fact that he's here makes me think that he's going to come back with a good performance. What kind of a trip can he pull? Because we've seen in the past Arklow get close to the pace, but I think he's a little bit more effective when you take him back and make one run.
Yeah, he probably is, but you're right that they have gone forward with him in the past, and it's worked out pretty well for them. He's perfectly adaptable to slower paces. It's interesting that the pace could be an issue here too, Dan, because the last time we saw this horse in the Turf Classic, they did decide to go forward with him there, and that pace turned out to be really solid and went to closers, and he just kind of took the worst of it that day. Didn't run as poorly as it looks on paper. The race before that at Kentucky Downs, he just got a terrible trip. He was going to win. He just got totally shut off in the stretch and couldn't really recover, but he ran great that day. I don't know. I'm a big fan of this horse, and I'm not going to be surprised when he comes back and runs a good one.
Unlike many European horses, the number 3 Highland Chief has the tactical speed to get close to the pace. We saw that in the Man of War 2 starts back. His Grade 1 victory when he pulled off a pretty big upset at $40. He ran fine in the Manhattan, considering that he was on a chase on the outside. He made a bit into the stretch while Tribhuvan had just gotten away, and he was just beaten in a blanket finish for second. All in all, yet another good performance for a horse that's now coming into this race off 2 triple-digit Beyer speed figures and seems to handle any kind of ground.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, his Manhattan actually wasn't bad. He did some chasing in there. He was wide on the turn, and he was trying to make his run at Tribuvan right when that horse went, I don't know, 22-4, then 23-2. You're not going to be able to get to him at that point. He still ran on okay. I get that when he won the Man of War 2 back, he just sort of had the best trip in the race and maybe took advantage a little bit, but he still ran well in his own right. And it's not like that race came out of nowhere, Dan. This horse was good overseas.
Cross Border, the number 4, is a millionaire, a New York bred that ran fourth last time out in the Kingston. It was a race where maybe he didn't get the best trip in that scenario, but we know he loves stretching out. This is his distance. He absolutely adores Saratoga, and he does have the tactical speed to either make the lead if they want or sit just off. He's a horse that usually goes off at a good price, and he might offer a good value yet again for a fantastic trainer and maker.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm not surprised they're back to try this race one more time. He won it last year, as you mentioned. He actually was placed first back in 2020 as well via disqualification. So he's the two-time defending champ in the Bowling Green. And, we'll see what he does here. I personally don't care for his form so far as an 8-year-old. I don't like any of his 3 starts since he's come back. But I think it's got to be taken as a good sign that Maker's running him here.
Blinkers off for the 5 Sabolian, who's cutting back off the 2-mile race, the Belmont Gold Cup, where he just sort of ran evenly. He's run some nice races in the past without getting over the hump. I wonder if he sort of reached that Blyer plateau in the low 90s, and he'll likely have to run faster if he's going to win this race. Blinkers off today.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does. I'm going to just give him a pass for the 2-mile race last time. I don't really care about that start for him. His Louisville 2-back I thought was really good. And I actually think he was really unlucky in that race. Got blocked in some traffic, shuffled back, couldn't get clear till they were inside the 8th pole. Then he actually ran at the end of that race. I thought that was a pretty tough beat for this horse. He is the kind of horse who, it feels like when you go back and watch his earlier races, you got to time it right with him. Dan, he's got a little hang in him. I don't think you want to get him clear too late, and that can be a problem. But if he times it right, I think he'll run at the end of this race.
Chad Brown also has the 6 Rock Emperor ready to go. Rock Emperor was second in this race behind Cross Border last year, and he finally got his grade 1 when winning the Joe Hirsch going 1.5 miles in a race that we talked about, the pace set up for him that day. He's one of the horses that just seemed to hate the boggy going in the Fort Marcy last time out. He ran better in the Manhattan, although I think you could argue while his stablemate was sort of buried down inside, Rock Emperor was able to get to the outside in the stretch, and he kind of just churned along for a minor award.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I mean, he basically got the same trip that Gufo did in the Manhattan. Gufo outkicked him. This horse stayed on pretty well through this stretch, but he was never making up any ground in there. I don't know, Dan. I just don't know how good this horse is. I know he, as you mentioned, he got the big win with the perfect setup last year. And then, he turned right back into Rock Emperor 2 starts later at a short price at Del Mar. We got a perfect trip and had no excuse.
Maybe stretching out in distance slightly will help Rock Emperor, although 3-1 for me with Rock Emperor always seems a little bit too short on the tote. Let's take a look at our top selections for the Bowling Green in here. You're a big fan of Highland Chief. You've scored out on him on the past. He's got tactical speed. He's got figures. He's got grand motion. Lot to like, and he's not the favorite on the morning line.
Yeah, that's why I took him. I'm a big fan of Arklow, but I don't really want him as the morning line favorite. I'm going to just take Highland Chief here, Dan. I think he's a very logical horse in here. I think there's a good trip coming.
I respect him immensely. He is my second pick, but I really like Limparator in here. And I know the Fort Marcy is a race that's very difficult to analyze. I thought he ran well in the Manhattan, just sort of buried down inside, never really got a chance to run. And he actually showed a little bit of a life. I'd like to see Manny Franco take this race to the rest of the field. He's bound to be a good price. And it's not like his last race or his other races have come out of nowhere. He ran fine at Saratoga in 2021, although a beaten favorite. 1362 for me, 3521 for Mike. It's the grade 2 Bowling Green. Should be a fine race on an excellent Sunday card at the Spa. Good luck.